I'm ready to dive in. Carey, how are you feeling?
We're ready. We're cozied up here at the
go.
studio.
Good stuff. Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We are excited to be here and just to continue to connect with you all. I've been pleasantly surprised throughout this experience, this kind of virtual yoga world that is getting to be more familiar to all of us, how connected we are able to feel. And I think that's pretty special that, we talked about it in my class last week, and I know Carey shared this messaging before, that connection itself, that it happens at the level of the mind. We don't need to be in the same room. We can be in a completely different space in our world, in our city, and still be connected because it happens at the mind and it stays here in the heart. So we're going to move through our meditation, and we sort of have a little bit of a schedule, but we're kind of just going with the flow of whatever comes up here tonight, and whatever feels like it needs to come out, we're just going to kind of roll with it. So the plan is to start off with a bit of a guided meditation, and then we can open for a bit of a discussion. If anybody feels like sharing tonight, we want to use this as a forum to be able to share and be heard. And if you don't feel comfortable with that, we'd love for you to just continue to listen in and to be here with us. If you're new to meditation, because I know there's a couple people on here who maybe aren't a weekly or daily meditator, and that's totally cool. Don't be intimidated. Meditation at the simplest form is really just being present, is just being able to be in the moment, and that's all it is. If you do feel comfortable, I'd invite you to close your eyes down. So whether you're seated or you want to lie down, there's no right or wrong way to do this. Just find a space or a position that you feel comfortable in. And if it feels okay for you, then I would invite you to actually close the eyes down. If you're seated, you can always just rest your hands over top of your thighs. If you're lying down, maybe resting the palms on the belly, whatever feels most natural. And if you aren't closing the eyes down, then you can just get really soft through the face, so the gaze begins to just rest in a little. And I want to invite you on this journey of just beginning to sort of see and feel what's moving beneath the surface tonight. As our body settles into stillness, the mind begins to follow. And we get this opportunity to just really be here right now, without changing anything. Just take a nice full breath in. A nice soft breath out. How are you feeling in this moment? What is the quality or texture of what's moving beneath your skin? And don't get caught up in feeling like you need to find a label. I just want you to feel. So regardless of if that feeling is uncertainty, or maybe feeling a little bit numb in this moment, all of those are feelings too. Are living kind of in this unknown, this day-to-day where things are constantly changing and around us. And although the space outside may feel a little static or empty right now, there is a lot of energy moving around us. As you kind of just connect into whatever it is that's moving within you, you just warrant this time to give that a little bit of space. Sometimes if we're leaning towards a spectrum that has to do more with fear or anger or overwhelm, whatever it is, really quick to want to put up this barrier or this wall. Tonight, we want to work kind of peeling some of that away. We want to just give our bodies or minds this space to actually feel through it so that we can begin to move past it. Take a nice full breath in and a soft breath out. Allowing there to be space. This gift of allowing yourself to be still is not an easy practice. You know, over time, it gets a little bit easier. And that whatever is moving beneath the surface today, that there is no right or wrong in that. I'm just trusting that we're all doing the best that we can right now. I invite you to just allow that feeling to start to move to the spaces in the body. Inviting it to move all the way down to the toes and the fingers. And just start to explore that a little bit more. What is the quality of this feeling? What does it feel like in my body? How does it change the texture in my breath? As we connect here as a group, unity of being in this thing together. I will invite you again to take a big breath in, nice and slow. Inhale through the nose, fill up. This time, opening the mouth as you exhale, softly release. Beautiful prayer in moments like these. Anytime you do feel like perhaps the emotions are getting a little bit on the heavier side of the spectrum, and the overwhelm or sadness, fear, frustration, whatever that is, when that starts to set in, the most beautiful prayers that I've heard throughout this journey, these last few days, this prayer of, I do not know what anything is for. I do not know what anything is for. Resisting the urge or the need to have to define a why. Why is this happening? What if this? We can just try to separate an outcome or reasoning behind something and settle into that idea, that beautiful big idea. I do not know what anything is for.
Yeah, it's definitely a beautiful prayer that we've both been practicing a lot lately from A Course in Miracles. And it just really invites us to be like a blank slate and to just allow all the opinions and judgments about what we think is even going on to kind of melt away. When that I know mind starts to quiet, we create this space for some true wisdom and guidance to come through and to be heard. And we come to the point that we begin to recognize that this is really the only opinion that has any value. It starts to be this lived experience of, I know now that I will not ever find this lasting source of security or comfort around me. And certainly right now, that is a very common experience among most of us, is just feeling like the world that I once felt was safe appears to feel very unsafe right now. And what feels so threatening actually becomes this beautiful opportunity and this invitation to finally stop, because the choice has been taken away to look for security outside of ourselves. And so, where can I turn to? And if we allow that I know mind to quiet down, there is this beautiful emergence of this guidance that comes through finally, because we're willing to listen. Saying, this is where I want you to look for the safety that you seek. This is where I've always wanted you to look for the safety that you seek. And it's this beautiful invitation to finally return home. And it's really this experience that we've been trying to mimic in the world outside of ourselves. But it's really this that we've been craving and seeking. And so you can start to recognize right now that there may be a part of the mind, and that's the fearful part of the mind, that's disappointed that the source of safety around us appears to have been taken away. But there's another part of the mind that is so joyous. Finally, yes, I want you to remember where your source of safety has always been and where it has never been. Yeah, so what's beautiful about this guidance system that each and every one of us has access to, is that we can really use these times of uncertainty to bring every single fear that surfaces to this part of the mind that's already whole and healed. It does not look for safety or security outside of ourselves. And that is so thrilled to remind you about the truth of what you are. So all of the fear that's been surfacing in the last couple of weeks, it's a shared fear. And it's nothing new. And we know that. These fears that are surfacing that we're becoming aware of, these are old fears. If you're honest with yourself, these are old fears that have always been deep within the mind, that have required the perfect circumstances in order to be brought up to the surface. One of my favorite quotes from A Course in Miracles that I've shared many times, and then I'll share it again tonight, is that your task is not to seek for love. And that is truly beyond what can be taught. Love is really what you are. So your task, rather, is to discover all of the barriers that you've built up against it. And the idea is that this is really what the world is for. This is the purpose of why we're here. It's not so that everything around us begins to work out or to look a certain way. And so that we can discover all of the barriers in the mind, all of the thoughts and the beliefs that we have layered and veiled this beautiful light from just shining consistently through us. So consider the possibility that what we're working with right now and what we're dealing with right now is just all of those shadows that have been dormant perhaps for some time, but are finally being surfaced so that greater light can be exposed. This is really what's been coming through strongly for me, is that do not waste this opportunity to expose these fears that are surfacing in the mind right now. Bring each and every one of them to this light within the mind, this guidance system, whatever you want to call it, whatever symbol that takes. But to be willing to expose this darkness to love. And to see what still lasts and to see what still exists for all of eternity. Beyond this body, where does my safety lie? In reality, beyond this body and this world, where does my worth truly come from? Where has my worth already been established? So we're going to invite you for the remainder of this time together to participate in the expression and the exposure of the darkness, any of the fears, to just use this time to expose it, not to expose it for the purpose of reinforcing your belief in it, for the purpose of reinforcing your belief that you're vulnerable or that you're unsafe, but to expose it from the point of view is there's a part of my mind that wants me to believe that this is so. And what my experience has been, and I know this has been the experience for Carey as well, and many of you out there who I've had the pleasure of speaking to, is that the more that we expose these things, just the mere exposure of it, it reflects our willingness to consider a new perspective. It invites the guidance to come through from the spirit or from the heart within. And it's really a declaration of, I think that this is what's going on, but in reality, I don't. And so it's a declaration of show me, teach me another way of looking at all of this, because at the end of the day, our experience is only ever the result of the beliefs that we have in our mind and the beliefs that we're clinging to. So this does not need to be a nightmare-ish experience for anyone. It simply does not need to be that.
I think to add to that, it's, that saying of our fear, the fear grows in the dark, but the moment that we are able to shed a little bit of light on that and exposure to what Carey is saying, that's when we step back into the driver's seat of being a little bit more in control, where we can then gain perspective of what is this teaching me? What is this telling me? Is this even correct? Is this fear of where I'm establishing this seed from, of what's triggering me or hurting me or bothering me? Is that even accurate, or where is that coming from? And that, what a beautiful, this experience some days for me has felt like an absolute nightmare. But what a beautiful perspective of turning the switch and immediately kind of saying, but it doesn't have to be. This can be here to teach us so much. I have connected with people in a way that I haven't in a really long time through this experience. I have been exposed to feelings I haven't felt in a long time, because I'm now forced to sit still long enough to really dive into it, to ask some of the harder questions. And my brother so beautifully said, as I chatted with him 2 days ago, when I was having one of those low moments, when we say the prayer, the beautiful big idea, we do not know what anything is for. And his take on all of this was, for all we know, this could be saving the world. I was like, what? It probably friggin' is. Like, it's probably saving the world right now. There's something bigger than us that is at play. That's my perspective on it. I love that.
So we want to open it. We want to open it up to all of you. If you feel a nudge, a gentle nudge internally saying, yeah, let's do this, even if there's fear around it. You've got an audience, and we are happy to join with you right now. So how can people join? Is there an option for people to raise their hands, or
I don't know. There might be an option to raise hands. If you, let me just look here. You get a couple options. If you feel comfortable hopping off mute, and if nobody is talking, then you just hop in if there's anything you want to share. If you don't feel comfortable sharing verbally, you can chat in, and there's no pressure to do anything. I think it's just, we want to use this as a forum to learn together. If there's anything that you have on your heart that you want to get out, or see if maybe somebody else has been feeling this experience as well, it's an opportunity for us to connect.
Okay, I'll go. It's Monique. Hi.
here?
I wanted to just thank you guys for doing this. It's really, really helpful, especially when our mind is wandering all over. And I agree with you guys. I think there's something bigger here that nobody knows what it is yet. And your brother might be right. So let's keep going forward. I'm just taking it one day at a time and one moment at a time, and trying not to panic or look ahead or worry about what the outside is doing. And just being in the moment is what I'm working really hard at doing now.
I love that. That's Monique, right?
I think
Yep.
Yeah, I love that, Monique. One of the favorite ideas that I have is that, like, the perfect script for the awakening of my mind, the perfect script for the healing of my own mind and heart has already been laid out. And so there's no accidents. I don't need to be fearful about what's going to happen next, because there's this feeling of trust that everything that's unfolding is literally unfolding perfectly for me.
Oh, that's great.
I think someone wrote in.
I think it's really great you're both sharing with us in this experience. I think at this time we are really seeing who we are connected closely to and who is connected closely to us. Yeah, what a beautiful text. I won't share a name in case you don't want it shared. And you're right. I think that it's so true. In your heart who you're connected with, and back to that idea of, it's almost like a practice or an exercise, like meditation or like a yoga class. It's like we need to practice being able to not be in a room full of people or family or friends or whatever it is and still be able to feel connected.
Yeah.
And we need to be able to tap into that feeling in our heart, in our mind, and it's an exercise, right? And this is the chance to really put a lot of that stuff into practice. It doesn't happen automatically, like intuition. That takes time. That has to be put into practice.
I kind of want to share something just to give a little application. I think the application of this is sometimes to help. So I'm going to use a little example. Yesterday, I had a meditation session here last night, and I was very triggered after the session. I'm not sure why, but I had a lot of fear surfacing around all of this. So my father called right away. We had a chat, and I chose to expose the fears that were coming up for me. I didn't really know what it was about, but Carey guided us through an emotion-centered meditation initially, which I think is really important because the emotions are really the glue that keeps those beliefs in place. So I always start by the feeling. So I was feeling really locked in and boxed in and almost claustrophobic and feeling like choice is being taken away from me, and I feel trapped, and I'm feeling like almost suffocated by the lack of choice I feel I have. And so as I kept exposing all of this, it was like, oh, the reason I'm feeling this way is because I feel like my sources of security and safety are being taken away from me. So what are those supposed sources of safety and security? Not being able to see my mother, who's in the hospital right now. Not being able to know for sure that my father, who's supposed to come visit me this summer, who's also, elderly, may not make this last visit. Wondering, my community of support here through HAMSA, like realizing that, wow, that's been a symbol of security for me. So what was cool is that as I continued to expose that, then I was able to sort of bring that question, well, is that actually what sustains me? Is that actually where my security is derived from? I'm not talking about on the level of the body right now. I'm really talking about at the level of, on a cellular level, like the level of the soul, of the spirit. And what came through loud and clear was like, absolutely not. All of these things around me are symbols of the security and the love that was already there, but they're showing up in different forms. So again, I don't need to be caught up in the form that the love is showing up, because the love has always been there sustaining all of these forms, but the form is not important. So I didn't jump from A to B right away. This was a process of a couple of hours that unfolded last night. But the point is I slept beautifully last night because I worked it out. Now, there's a tendency sometimes to want to just not deal with it, and I had opportunities to avoid it, but that's why we've created this forum. So we're going to really invite anyone who feels like they have a call to expose, to go for it.